Okay, so Jarvin, I've got a couple things for you here. I chose 3 problems off of that worksheet. And I chose all subtraction problems because I think that's probably where you're having the most problem. The first problem I chose, I want to show you exactly what you're looking for. First, you're going to have 4r cubed plus 3r to the fourth minus the quantity r to the fourth minus 5r cubed. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to get rid of this minus sign. Okay, how do you get rid of it? You distribute it to everything in the right hand side, and then you can also take away the parentheses. So since there's nothing out front of this one, we're just going to write it back down as 4r cubed plus 3r to the fourth. We're going to change the minus sign to a plus sign now, which means that we need to change everything that's in the second parentheses, the one that's behind the subtraction, to the opposite sign. So this was the first one's a positive r to the fourth, so I want negative r to the fourth. And then this was a negative 5r cubed, so I want plus 5r cubed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for like terms. Okay, like terms are really easy. You look at 2 things. You look at the letter and you look at the number up above. So I have r to the third. This one's r to the fourth. That's not a like term. That second one's r to the fourth. The third one is also r to the fourth. That's not a like term. This one is r to the third. So this term here and this term here, these are like terms because they have the same variable to the same power. Okay, that's all you're looking for. Same variable, same power. So I have 4r to the third plus 5r to the third. Well, Jarvin, I know you can do this part. What's 4 plus 5? That's 9. R to the third. Now what do I have left? I have 3r to the fourth plus negative r to the fourth. Well, this is a negative 1. You know that there's a 1 there. So basically, these are like terms, same variable to the same power. So I have 3 plus negative 1, or 3 minus 1, which is 2. So I have plus 2 r to the fourth. And Jarvin, that's it. That's all there is to these problems. All you're doing is you're changing everything after the minus sign to its opposite, and you're also changing everything in the parentheses after the minus sign. And you're also just looking for like terms and adding them together. So let's do another one together. So I've got 8n minus 3n to the fourth plus 10n squared minus 3n squared plus 11n to the fourth minus 7. Okay, what's the first thing I do? I get everything that's to the right of this minus sign and I change the sign. Now, if this is a plus sign, don't do it. Only if it's a minus sign. So let's get rid of all this parentheses here. So I have 8n minus 3n to the fourth plus 10n squared. Now, we're going to change this to a plus, so it's going to be minus 3n squared. We're going to change the positive 11n to minus 11n to the fourth. And we have a negative, changing in that negative becomes into a plus 7. Okay. Now, when we combine like terms, look for the highest power, please. I know that we didn't do that in the last one, but we are going to do it this time. I have n, and I have n. My highest power of n is 4. So here's the first one I'm looking at. Do I have any n to the 4s over here? Yes, I have negative 11n to the 4. So what do? Negative 3 minus 11, or negative 3 plus negative 11. However you want to think about it, I don't care. But negative 3 plus negative 11 is negative 14 n to the fourth. Notice we are not changing the power when we add. We only change the power when you multiply. That's one of the things that a lot of students get confused with. Now the second part, we've got 10n squared and we've got negative 3n squared. So 10n squared minus 3n squared is 7n squared. And then we have 8n, but this doesn't have an n next to it, does it? The 7 doesn't have an n. So I just there's nothing to add to the 8n, so I just put plus 8n. And then I have plus 7. And then it's done. There's nothing else you can do. If they don't have the same variable to the same power, you can't add them. All right, one last problem, and this one has a little bit more to it. Okay, so this one we had 4x squared plus 7x cubed y squared minus negative 6x squared minus 7x cubed y squared minus 4x minus 10x plus 9x squared. There's a lot to this one, okay? But again, you start out by doing the same thing. We need to get rid of these negatives by distributing the negative across. So we're going to leave the first one alone, but we're going to take the parentheses away. So we got 4x squared plus 7x cubed y squared. Now this minus sign, that becomes a plus, and we change all the signs in this particular one. So this negative 6x squared becomes 6x squared. Negative 7x cubed y squared becomes plus 7x cubed y squared, and this becomes plus 4x. And we're going to do the exact same thing with this other minus sign that we have. So we're going to have a plus. Now this plus 10x becomes minus 10x, and this plus 9x squared becomes minus 9x squared. Now, one of the things I hope you notice is that we have two variables here. We have x and y. Jarvin, they are not like terms unless they have the same variables to the same power. Okay, so we look for the highest value of x. The highest value of x is x to the third. So I have an x to the third y squared. Is there any place else that I have an x to the third y squared? Why, yes, there is. There's x to the third y squared right here. If this was x to the fourth, it would not be like terms. If this was just plain old y, it would not be like terms. But they are like terms because they have the same variables to the same power. So I can actually add these. What's 7 plus 7? 14. So I have 14 x to the third y squared. Okay. Now, what's next? I look for my next highest power of x. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to do a little cross out saying I've already done those. So I have x squared, I have an x squared, and I have an x squared. I have x squared here, x squared here, and x squared here. These are like terms, so I can combine them. So I've got 4 plus 6, which is 10, and I've got 10 minus 9, which is 1. Okay, so this becomes plus 1 x squared, and now I'll cross through those. And what do I have left? I have 4x and negative 10x. Those are also like terms, aren't they? So I can combine those. So 4x minus 10x is minus 6x. And that's it, Jarvin. I think you're trying to, by doing the multiplication, you're trying to make this way too hard. I know you know how to multiply it. That's actually a little bit easier for some students, but this is very straightforward. Don't overthink it. All right, have a good day.